do everything I can to lower your expectations.
They're pretty low.
Oh, good.
That's a good start then.
Yeah.
Or heading down the right road.
Then taking it further down won't hurt so bad. Hello, I'm Larry. He's Billy, and this is Carter's Country. Today we're going to have a little how-to video on some basics of cleaning your firearm. You know, firearms kind of like a pet. Buying it is just the first step. There's still responsibilities. You know,
Absolutely, a lot more at the end.
It's got to be taken out and spend time at the range so it gets some fresh air. It needs to be fed quality ammunition. Needs to be cleaned. So we're just going to kind of take you a step further into gun owner responsibility and just show you some basic cleaning tips. So Billy, I'm going to turn this over to you. This seems like more of a Billy thing than a Larry thing because I don't do well with something like this when I'm being filmed. I can prove it, but we don't have time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. And I have. Thank you for noticing and remembering. We're going to start off with a 1911 classic firearm, and for a lot of people, you know, it is a little bit different breakdown on this than most of your polymer type guns. So this one will be kind of specific to the 1911, but it'll still have a lot of great information.
Well, first thing before we start getting into the actual gun cleaning part of this situation here, we want to be sure that the gun is in a completely safe order. So you will always be sure to keep the gun pointed in a safe direction, and you will lock the slide back. You will extract the magazine if there's magazine inside the gun, and then you will visually check in the chamber area to see and be sure there's no actual rounds in the actual gun itself, and it is completely safe and ready to be worked with.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, when you hear about accidental discharges on firearms, a lot of times it is while the gun's being cleaned and somebody's just assuming it's empty, which is something you should never do anyway. But as you're handling a gun and cleaning it, there's just times you're turning it and doing things with it. It's so important that you know the gun's empty before you get started.
Okay, like we just got through going through, we know the gun is now safe and unloaded. Okay, in order to take the slide off to disassemble a gun, we just have to twist the actual bushing here in a in a clockwise motion around to this side, and be very careful. Keep your thumb on top of the spring here because it will fly out and hit you in the head, or a friend in the head, one or the other.
And it's always fun to crawl around on the floor looking for things after they've launched into the next room, yeah.
And so in order to get the bushing out of here, you simply push the spring back in, roll the bushing around to the other side in a counterclockwise motion now, and then you'll be able to pull this out. So there's your bushing. And at this point, you'll simply push the slide back to where the small notch is exposed. Then on the back side of the gun, this is the front part of the actual slide release button right here, and you'll push in on that, and then this will come straight out like that. Everything should come off the front now very easily. So there's the basic frame assembly and cap. You can take the spring assembly out first, and then the barrel assembly will simply push forward. You can push forward all the way. Those are the basic pieces of as far as disassembly for a clean oil type situation that you want to go to. Anything past this, as far as trying to take anything else off this frame, should really go to a qualified gunsmith to get taken care of.
Yeah, you've gone as far as you need to go, and I assure you, you've gone as far as you want to go.
Right. And so from this point forward, we just start basic cleaning and oiling. And so I like to start with the barrel itself. And what I do with the barrel is I would take a patch and we'll put that on this. We're kind of cheating doing it this way. We'll do that, and we'll put some actual rim oil or actual powder solvent on the patch, and we'll run it straight down the barrel. Okay, we'll pull this out. That will kind of put some lubrication in the barrel. Then we'll actually take the brush and we'll work the actual brush back and forth through the barrel, which will scrape any hard residue out of it. And just, there's no wives' tale out that you should not use phosphor bronze brushes in guns, and that's really strictly it. It's just more of an old wives' tale. The phosphor brush itself was super soft, so there's no way that it can damage your barrel in any way, shape, or form unless you try to cram a really super big one in there that shouldn't go in there anyway. Anyway, so at this point, I will put this same patch back on here and then go back to one more patch, and then we'll push that whole thing down through the barrel.
Squeaky clean, huh?
Squeaky clean. At that point, we can tell that most everything is out of the gun.
This kind of shows you just how much stuff that brush breaks loose, because the first patch didn't have nearly that much on it. The second patch, that's putting up everything that brush break through. So if you're thinking, well, you'll just skip the brush step, this is telling you you really shouldn't.
You should always brush them first.
Yeah.
At this point, put some actual rim oil back on this patch, on a patch, and then simply roll it, send it down through the barrel, just kind of scrape it back and forth a little bit, spin it. And what you're doing at that point in time, you're just putting a very light film of oil on the inside of the barrel, okay, in case the gun sits around for a long period of time, and you get the last little bit of that residue out of there, and it will keep the inside of the barrel from rusting.
Nice.
Okay. And then the exterior of the gun, we basically just go through, and outside of the barrel will just be towel dried off. And this is an actual silicone cloth, so you're actually helping protect the metal at the same time. You'll give the actual bushing a little wipe down. Remove any exposed parts.
So really, once the pistol's disassembled, it's just basic common sense cleaning.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's not near as complicated or time consuming as people try to make it out to be.
Right.
So it's really something that, the more often you do this, the more familiar you will be with your gun and your firearm, which is never ever a bad thing.
So it's a nice side effect of keeping the gun clean, is getting more familiar with it, learning about it, getting more comfortable.
Okay. On the inside, we like to take a little toothbrush and just kind of give a little brush. I mean, no major amounts of anything. Just kind of where the actual rail goes down, where the actual rail slides on the frame itself. Give a little brush, give a little extra residue, anything out of there like that. You can also come back from this way a little bit. Most of the stuff you can see, if you see a lot of residue, then you really know where to go with it. Yeah. As far as that goes, and at this point, you take the frame, kind of look at it also. If you notice, it's really dry.
Right, yeah.
So I just take these silicone cloths and wipe the outside exterior of the gun. As far as that goes, do the actual slide area. And then at this point, we take just a little bit of oil and probably just spray directly on the gun itself, on the actual slide area there.
That rim oil is really versatile stuff.
Yes, it is. Yeah. One thing I do want to stress is that, there's a big difference between oil and grease, which we have some Pro Gold sitting over here that we're fixing to get involved with. And you should always put, some grease on the actual slide areas where the actual slide and the frame will be going together. And there again, the reason is because oil will burn off with heat, and the grease will not. It doesn't have to be like a huge amount. Maybe just a couple of dimples here and there.
Okay. That's probably something people put a lot more on than necessary. When I see how little you're putting on there, it's...
Yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot. Just a few little dots.
Another advantage, real quickly, to the oil over the grease, if you've ever oiled a slide, even if you use just a little bit, when you put the gun back together, you are going to have oil running down the gun after it's back together. That gets really irritating, so definitely use the grease.
Right, and the only thing I hadn't done was just kind of wipe the outside of this actual slide here. And we're pretty much good to go at this point. So we have to start the reassembly process to its place. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and slide the necessary spring back into its place. You've got a horseshoe kind of situation on this bushing. Turn this around, it will go in the gun, will mate up with your barrel tab there. At this point in time, you will go ahead and slide it back on the frame. Okay, so everything should slide back. There should be no force involved in anything. And then the crucial part at this point, we want to get the actual slide stop back in place before you get all your springs and so forth going on. There's only one way this can go back in, okay?
It's that little notch again, right?
That's correct. Okay. You've got to go back. This has to go through the actual loop on the bottom of the barrel. Okay, so what I do, once I see the loop past the actual hole there, I'll slide it in.
Got you.
Okay? And then at this point, this starts down here, and you're just going to push up against this actual rod right here with the tip of the actual slide stop. Kind of make it one full motion. Okay? Everything's back in there like it should. You'll simply push the slide forward at this point. And then you can put your bushing back in. And you're going to start like you did before. You can push it clockwise till you have this out of the way. And then your cap will go back on. And here again, don't point this at anybody or at your eyeballs or anything like that. Push it down, get it started, push it down the rest of the way, and there you go. Boop. And you're good to go.
Nice. One thing real quick that I noticed when you were greasing the rails there, you didn't put the grease to full length. You let the slide distribute the grease once you put it back together and work in the action. That's going to be sufficient for the grease there.
Right.
Okay.
As you can tell, what little bit of grease I put in there, a lot of it comes right out on the first slide. A little bit goes a super long ways.
Right.
Okay. At this point, all I would do is simply just work the gun back and forth several times to be sure the grease is evenly distributed. I wipe off the excess grease, and we would call this done and good to go.
All right, Billy, that was a great job. Just as I expected, you made it look really smooth, a lot easier and a lot less cursing than if I was doing it. You didn't shoot the spring across the room. That's something else I'm pretty good at. I don't mean to brag, but I'm really good at that part. One of the points I want to make to people watching this, you saw the limited amount of things that were needed to clean the gun. And if you are wanting to get in this yourself, which is really a great idea, I think, you can get everything you need for less than $30. You know, to be able to do this kind of thing yourself. You'll have this video to reference back to if you've got questions. If it's a 1911, put our video on and just get ready to pause with each step, and the video will walk you right through it with obviously everything you'll need to know.
Correct.
Just here to remind you, as always, if you've ever shopped, shot, or hunted with us, you're already a part of the Carter's Country family. Till next time, adios.